Separately? Yeah. Alright. Just tell me when you're done. Alright. Shit. This is gonna be so weird. What's up, Tom? It's Collin. I'm doing it by myself. Here's the book right here. Question 1. Who do you think got more out of their Tuesday meetings, Mitch or Morrie? In what ways? How do you think each would answer this question? Well, I personally think that Mitch gains more from Morrie because Mitch, he's more of a middle-aged man. Morrie, he's older, he's dying, so he's more wise, so Mitch can gain the wisdom from Morrie. But I still believe that Morrie, he enjoys spending time with Mitch. It gives him satisfaction. The problem with Mitch is he's obsessed with work and he doesn't focus on what truly matters. And the thing that Morrie is able to help him realize that. In what ways? These lessons. What's the other part? In what ways? How do you think we should answer these questions? Because of the strike, Mitch is able to cope with the absence of work, which helps him. I think if both of them are asked this question, I would say each of them would say the other person, since they both were able to get something out of the other person. Mitch was able to gain wisdom, and Morrie was able to gain satisfaction, which he greatly enjoyed since he was dying. You could say Mitch is the student and Morrie is the teacher. Question number 2. Do you think Morrie should have been tougher on Mitch or easier? I would say there's no really reason for Morrie to be tough. Morrie was just telling a story what he learned on his journey, which could help Mitch. So there's really no reason to be tough on Mitch, I would say. Mitch was still able to take his advice without Morrie being tough on him. He just pointed out things, and what's the other part? Discuss the criticism. If someone has no, Mitch was able to. It allowed his students to listen or not, which if they could change or not to change, as if they choose, it's their choice. Morrie's story should help them change. If they didn't have the desire to change, then it's their fault. They can't have. If they change, they will be able to make a difference, and that can help them realize the truth. Question 3. Do you think Mitch would have listened if Morrie hadn't been dying? Does impending death automatically make one's voice able to penetrate where it couldn't before? I doubt that Mitch would have spent any time with his mentor without the television story that brought him back to his mind. So without Morrie's impending death, I don't think Mitch would have had the opportunity to listen, let alone hear and learn. So Morrie's death did. Without Morrie's death, I don't think Mitch would have been able to hear of his story. Impending death, I believe, makes those who are not dying selfish, since they realize they need to care more about themselves, that death is a thing that's coming. What's the other part? Just impending death automatically make one's voice able to penetrate what it couldn't before. I think death makes one's voice able to penetrate what it couldn't before. I think death, when people realize that death is closing in on them, they realize, wow, I haven't done so many things, so I think they become more selfish, they care about more of themselves. Death hits right in the heart. Everyone's basically experienced death, and I think when people realize they're about to, like, that's why the next question out of the bucket list, the death. When people realize death is upon them, they strive to do more. I feel like that they didn't accomplish in their life. Does this book make Morries' death a public event? If so, how is it similar to other public deaths? Oh my God. Does this book make Morries' death a public event? If so, how is it similar to other public deaths we've experienced as a society? No, I don't think this book makes it a public event. I think the book celebrates. I think it celebrates how extraordinary Maury was and his outlook on life, how he was able to tell his story. And it's not so like how he was dying. It's more about how he lived his life and how he could teach Mitch on how Mitch could live better. If I were to compare it to another death, I would compare it to Eazy-E and his battle with AIDS. Since he found out he had AIDS and he didn't die instantly. He was able to live for a couple months, I believe, and during those couple of months, he was able to teach other people. He was able to get his voice out in music. Question 5. Let me check this recording. That's recording. Maury referred to himself as a bridge, a person who is in between life and death, which makes him useful to others as a tool to understand both. Talk about other figures who have also served this purpose. I think a person who was like this, as I said in the previous question, is Morgan Freeman in the bucket list. Since in the movie, he was able to find out he was dying of cancer and he only had a couple months to live. But he wanted to complete a bucket list of things to do before he died, such as skydiving, visit magical places. He still has a life in him, as you could see, as he wants to do all these things. But he knows the cancer will finally catch up and kill him soon. He wants to show his son that there is meaning to life and that you can still do fun things. This is what Morty is doing with Mitch in a sort of a way, I guess. Question 6. Morty told Mitch about the tension of opposites. Talk about this as a metaphor for the book and for society. Tension of opposites means that your life is a series of poles back and forth. That you first want to do something, but then you're bound to do another thing, which it's temptations. Temptations get the best of everyone. Peer pressure, that's a big thing. He says that people take things for granted, even though you shouldn't. I feel like everyone takes things for granted, and when they realize it, it's too late. Because everyone in society, everyone's about themselves, and they do things for themselves, and they don't realize that they could hurt other people in the process. Question 7. Mitchell made a list of topics about which he wanted more insight and clarity. In what ways would your list be the same or different? If I were to make a list of topics that I would want to ask more, it would be pretty similar to Mitch's list, but I would also ask about happiness, love, conformity, religion, the meaning of life. I would want more insight and clarity, which Mitch for 2. I would want to know about how Maury felt about God and religion, and how that played into the afterlife. If he thought about that, what he thought would happen in the afterlife. Mitch's list and mine, that would probably be very similar, since both of us want to be successful and gain wisdom from Maury in order to live out a better life, I would feel like. Question 8. Maury said if you found meaning in your life, you don't want to go back. You want to go forward. Is this true in your experience? If you found meaning in your life, you don't want to go back. I would say it's somewhat true, but you always want to find out more in your life. I guess that is true, since if you found, you don't want to go back where you have no meaning, where there's nothing, like you're basically nothing. I feel like once you find meaning in your life, you should keep with that and keep on going. You should be going forward. Yeah, you should strive to be successful and all that. You want to be, yeah, you. Once you keep on going forward, you could be prosperous, you could be successful, you could be rich. Going back, I feel, takes all that away, and you have to restart from the beginning. Question 9. Was Maury judging people who choose not to have kids with his statement? If you want the experience of having complete responsibility for another human being and to learn how to love and bond in the deepest way, then you should have children. I feel like he somewhat was judging people who don't have kids, because he's saying in order to have responsibility, you need to have a kid. But I feel like that's not necessarily true. You could have a dog, you could have a pet, you could have even just taking care of your parents when they're older. Do I agree that I feel like having a kid is probably the biggest responsibility you could have, though, since you're taking care of another life for up to 18, they're like as long as they are, since you're teaching them their way of life, and the way they live life is because they taught them how to live. And that is Tuesdays with Morning by Collin Pertl. Dad. And here's the book.